Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It was just by Iron Man. They don't know I'm taking online class now. Sunday, no, so they don't expect. So before we proceed to cerebellum, I thought it would be nice if I finish fourth ventricle and then proceed with cerebellum, so we'll be able to understand all the dorsal features of pons and medulla very well now, which we are going to see in the cavity of fourth ventricle. So the objective of this session will be that at the end of this session, the student must be able to describe the situation, communications, features, boundaries, recesses, and applied anatomy of fourth ventricle. So what you see here, this cavity in red color is the fourth ventricle. So that's our midbrain, pons, and medulla. The entire brainstem can be visualized here. And that's the cerebellum behind. So in front, you have the pons and medulla. Behind, you have the cerebellum. In between, you have this cavity known as fourth ventricle. So what do you mean by ventricle? The literal word ventricle means it's an expanded sac-like structure. Sac, S-A-C, sac. That's why the cardiac chambers, the lower cardiac chambers are known as ventricles because they are sac-like structures or cavities filled with blood. The stomach is also otherwise known as gaster or ventriculus. Stomach is also otherwise known as gaster or ventriculus. And ventriculus again means it's a sac-like structure containing food, or it's a reservoir for food. So the word ventricle means it is having collection of something. So here it's going to be your cerebrospinal fluid. So the fourth ventricle is a tent-like. It's like a tent-like cavity of hindbrain. The hindbrain is the one which is consisting of the rhombencephalon, your pons, medulla, and cerebellum. All these will be parts of your hindbrain or rhombencephalon. The cavity of rhombencephalon or hindbrain is fourth ventricle. All the ventricles of brain will be lined by an epithelium, a very peculiar epithelium, which they might have taught you in the very earlier classes in Introduction to Nervous Tissue in the beginning last year. So that is ependyma, a type of neuronal supporting cells, nervous supporting cells, and or neuroglial cells or nervous tissue supporting cells is known as ependyma. Ependyma has a capacity to synthesize cerebrospinal fluid, and this entire cavity will be filled with cerebrospinal fluid. There is a capillary plexus within the cavity of fourth ventricle, and that is your you have your capillary plexus being formed from pica, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, branches of vertebral arteries. So the cerebrospinal fluid will also be synthesized from the blood within the choroid plexus, which is derived from the capillaries of the pica artery. Okay, so it's a tent-like cavity that is seen within the hindbrain or rhombencephalon lined by ependyma filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Now situation, where is it situated? It is situated in the posterior cranial fossa. Obviously the brainstem, cerebellum, all these are situated in the posterior cranial fossa in your cranial cavity. So it's situated in the posterior cranial fossa in front of cerebellum. Cerebellum is here. So in front of cerebellum and behind the pons and medulla. So it is positioned behind the pons and medulla in front of cerebellum, or it is positioned between the pons and medulla in front with the cerebellum behind. In a sagittal section, this is a sagittal section, a midline section. In a midline section, it appears triangular in shape. In a midline section, it appears triangular in shape, whereas in a horizontal section, when you take a horizontal section, it appears lozenge shape. Lozenge will be like this. Lozenge is a rhomboid in shape or diamond shape. Diamond shape or rhomboidal in shape or lozenge shape. Roughly a square, but a tilted square. It's not a straight square. Straight square will be like this. It's a tilted square. That's the shape of the fourth ventricle. Now moving on to communication. This fourth ventricle is not a completely closed chamber. It has to communicate with something above. It has to communicate with something below. So behind the pons, you have the fourth ventricle. And this fourth ventricle necessarily has to communicate with something, some other cavity above and with some other cavity below. So above, it communicates with the cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct is the it is the cavity that we saw in the midbrain. When we saw the sections of midbrain, we found that there's a small cavity there known as cerebral aqueduct, and surrounding that you have periaqueductal gray. So that cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius is the one with which this fourth ventricle is communicating above. Below, it is continuous with the central canal of medulla oblongata. Below, it is continuous with the central canal of medulla oblongata. So fourth ventricle communicates above with cerebral aqueduct and below with the central canal of medulla oblongata. Laterally, there are openings in the roof of the fourth ventricle known as foramina of Luschka. You'll be seeing in the pictures which are coming up. And there is a central opening. Centrally, there is an opening in the roof known as foramen of Magendie or Magendie. So you have three openings, totally five communications. One above with the cerebral aqueduct of midbrain, one below with the central canal of medulla. In the roof, you have two lateral openings, one median opening. The two lateral openings can't be made out here because this is a sagittal section, so you cannot make out the lateral openings here. That's why the median opening is made out here, which is the midline. So in the roof, you have two lateral openings and a median opening. The two lateral openings, lateral, L for L, foramina of Luschka. The one below is a central median opening in the roof, and that is Magendie, M for median. So Magendie, there's a median opening in the central part of the roof, and that is foramen of Magendie, which you can see here. Foramen of Magendie, the arrow is pointing. So these are the five communications of fourth ventricle. To reiterate once again quickly, I'll finish it very fast, don't worry. Above, cerebral aqueduct, below, central canal, laterally, foramen of Luschka in the roof, and in the midline, on the roof, you have the foramen of Magendie. Now coming to features, the angles, it has a superior angle, inferior angle, two lateral angles. So from this picture, you can make out this superior angle, inferior angle, and two lateral angles. So there are four angles totally for the fourth ventricle: superior angle, inferior angle, two lateral angles. Superior angle is the site where it's going to continue with the cerebral aqueduct of midbrain. Inferior angle is the site where it's going to continue with the central canal of medulla. The two lateral angles will show the presence of extensions of the cavity of fourth ventricle in the form of lateral recesses. So recess is a hidden space or an expansion or an extension, we can call it as. So this fourth ventricle cavity extends or expands laterally in the form of lateral recesses. So at the lateral angles, you find the lateral recesses. So to read it once again, the features, it has four angles. Superior angle is a site where the fourth ventricle cavity will continue as a cerebral aqueduct. Inferior angle is a site where the fourth ventricle cavity will continue with the central canal of medulla. At the lateral angles, it is going to extend in the form of lateral recesses of fourth ventricle. Recess is nothing but an expansion or extension. You have something which is having an extra fitting. So like that, this fourth ventricle has an extension of its cavity laterally at the lateral angles in the form of lateral recesses. Now coming to boundaries. The lateral boundaries, you have inferolateral boundary and superolateral boundary. The inferolateral boundary is formed by inferior cerebellar peduncle, your gracile tubercle, and your cuneate tubercle. So the inferolateral boundary will be related to your medulla, the posterior aspect or dorsal surface of medulla. So here, the inferolateral boundary of the fourth ventricle is formed by inferior cerebellar peduncle, gracile tubercle, and cuneate tubercle. Now, superolateral boundary. The superolateral boundary is formed by superior cerebellar peduncle. So, superior cerebellar peduncle connects the midbrain with cerebellum. Inferior cerebellar peduncle connects the medulla with cerebellum. And this will be the region of your middle cerebellar peduncle, but that's not forming a boundary anyway. Just incidentally, I mentioned that here. To reiterate once again, boundaries, coming to lateral boundaries, you have inferolateral boundary and superolateral boundary. The inferolateral boundary is formed by the medulla, dorsal surface of medulla, which includes the inferior cerebellar peduncle, your gracile tubercle, and cuneate tubercle. The superolateral boundary is formed by superior cerebellar peduncle. Now coming to the roof or posterior wall. So posterior wall means it is towards the cerebellum. So behind the fourth ventricle, what you have is the cerebellum. In front of the fourth ventricle, what you have will be the pons and medulla, the dorsal surface or the posterior surface of pons and medulla. So this posterior wall, or otherwise known as the roof of the fourth ventricle, is supposed to be tent shaped. It's like a tent. It's like a tent shaped. The apex of the tent projects into this region is the apex of the tent. This region is the apex of the tent like this. It is projecting. It is projecting into the cerebellum, into the white matter or white core of cerebellum. Upper part of the roof is formed by superior cerebellar peduncles and superior medullary velum. This entire pink colored area is your roof. This is going to form the roof or posterior wall. Its middle part, the apex of the tent or the middle part is projecting into the white core of cerebellum. The upper part of the roof is formed by superior cerebellar peduncle and superior medullary velum. The lower part of the roof is formed by the inferior medullary. All these are just white, whitish fibers which are forming the tent-like posterior wall or roof of the fourth ventricle. Nothing, they don't have any exact functional values, is velum or vela. So lower part of the roof is formed by inferior medullary velum, and in the lower part of the roof, in the midline, you find this central opening known as foramen of Magendie, which we saw earlier with the communications, along with the communications of fourth ventricle. So to repeat once again, the roof of posterior wall is tent-shaped. It is tent-shaped and projecting, the central part is projecting in behind into the white core of cerebellum. The upper part of the roof of posterior wall is formed by superior cerebellar peduncle and superior medullary velum. The lower part of the roof of posterior wall is formed by inferior medullary velum. And here in the lower part of the roof, in the central part, you find the foramen of Magendie, the midline communication through which the fourth ventricle communicates with the subarachnoid system or subarachnoid space. Now coming to floor. So once you remove, you saw this roof. Once you cut open here and remove, once you cut it, slit it open from the foramen of Magendie, insert a scissors, take it vertically upwards, slit open, what you see will be this picture. So once you remove the roof, you can see the floor. So once you break open the roof, you can see the floor of the building, isn't it? So exactly like that, once you cut open the roof, you can make out the floor of the fourth ventricle. The floor is none other than the posterior surface of pons and medulla. So whatever you studied as features on the dorsal surface or the posterior surfaces of pons and medulla, you're going to study here once again, external features, not the transverse section features, the external features. Okay. So having finished with the roof now, the roof has been removed to expose the floor of the fourth ventricle. The floor of the fourth ventricle is formed by the posterior surfaces of the pons and medulla, and this floor is rhomboid in shape. That's what I told you. It is rhomboid in shape or lozenge. Cough lozenges and the Vicks Matrella. Cough lozenges are supposed to be rhomboid in shape or diamond shape. That's why they're known as lozenges. So this is also lozenge shape or rhomboid in shape. So rhomboid in shape, hence the other term for floor of fourth ventricle is also rhomboid fossa. So if they ask in question as short notes, rhomboid fossa in paper 2, you should know it is nothing but the floor of the fourth ventricle. Don't blink there. It is just floor of the fourth ventricle. Floor of the fourth ventricle is also otherwise known as rhomboid fossa of brain. You should know what is this fossa, what is interpedicular fossa. That is different on the base of brain. This is rhomboid fossa, which is the floor of fourth ventricle. So it is rhomboid in shape, four-sided figure, rhomboid in shape. Hence, it is known as rhomboid fossa. So this has obviously an upper triangular part and a lower triangular part because it is formed by the posterior surfaces of pons above and medulla oblongata below. That's why it has this rhomboid shaped fossa has an upper triangular part and a lower triangular part. The upper triangular part is formed by the posterior surface of pons. The lower triangular part is formed by the posterior surface of medulla. In the middle, you have stria medullaris, fibers of stria medullaris. So this is just starting about the floor of fourth ventricle. We'll now go on to the features of the rhomboid fossa or features of floor of the fourth ventricle. So if you remember, I've already dealt with about the posterior surface, external features of posterior surface of pons with you in a session on pons. So here again, I'm going to reiterate once again all those features here. So this is the upper triangular part. In this upper triangular part, you can make out a median sulcus, a midline sulcus known as median sulcus. On either sides, you have elevated areas known as medial eminence. So this is known as medial eminence. So what you can see is medial eminence. The prominent area just on either side of median sulcus. This is median sulcus. This is median eminence. In the medial eminence, you find two oval-shaped prominences known as facial colliculus. We also know how it is formed. The motor nerve fibers going around the motor nerve fibers of facial nerve going around the abducens nerve nucleus will form a phenomenon known as neurobiotaxis, and this prominence, the abducens nucleus with the motor nerve fibers winding around it from the facial nerve will be seen as a prominent area. on the dorsal surface of pons known as facial colliculus. So median sulcus is there, medial eminence. Why I'm saying this as median? Because midline. Anything in the midline is median. Median, M-E-D-I-A-N, median or midline. Anything very close to the median plane or midline or sagittal plane is medial. Anything away is lateral. Okay. So this is medial eminence. Within the medial eminence, you find an oval-shaped prominent area known as facial colliculus. Now, this medial eminence is limited by another shallow groove here known as sulcus limitans. Sulcus limitans, a limiting groove. That's why it is known as sulcus limitans, obviously. So there is a limiting groove here known as sulcus limitans. The sulcus limitans, if you trace it above, it ends in a depressed area known as superior fovea. It ends in a depressed area known as superior fovea. The same sulcus limitans, if you trace it below, it will end in another lower down depressed area known as inferior fovea. And even beyond that, beyond the superior fovea, you find a darkly pigmented area known as locus ceruleus. This locus ceruleus contains cells which contain neurons, which contain melanin pigment, and they're supposed to contain the substance known as substantia ferruginea. So locus ceruleus is made up of cells which contain melanin pigment and substantia ferruginea. Ferruginea gives a clue that there is some iron content also here. That's why this locus ceruleus appears dark gray in color or pale black in color, dark gray or pale black in color. So these are the features in the upper pontine part of rhomboid fossa. I repeat once again, I've told each one is what exactly: median sulcus, medial eminence, facial colliculus, sulcus limitans, superior fovea, and locus ceruleus, and what each one contains. Now, this is inferior fovea in the medullary part of the rhomboid fossa, and I think almost everything else has been covered already. And this area is your vestibular area. Just above the stria medullaris, what you find, this area is known as vestibular area, from where your vestibulocochlear nerve is going to emerge from the ventral aspect of pons. Behind it is seen as area. So that facial colliculus here, when you take a section of pons at this level, if you take a section of pons at this level, it's going to appear like this. So this is the site of facial colliculus. This is a bulge or eminence or prominence that you're seeing in this picture here as an oval elevation. So when you take a horizontal section exactly at the level of this facial colliculus, it's going to appear like this, which is a pontine section. A pontine section at the level of facial colliculus. Okay. So this is what's happened here. You have your abducens nucleus there and your motor nucleus, a facial nerve here. The fibers are winding around it. This produces this elevation here known as facial colliculus. This phenomenon is known as neurobiotaxis. One cranial nerve fibers going around another cranial nerve nucleus. The other features of rhomboid fossa, moving on to the medullary part of the lower triangular part of the medullary part of rhomboid fossa. So what you have, the same median sulcus is there, extending here also, same sulcus limitans is there, and you find an inferior depressed area known as inferior fovea. Here, the upper pontine part, you had a medial eminence, whereas in the lower medullary part, on either side of the median sulcus, you have the hypoglossal triangle. Hypoglossal triangle is a site where hypoglossal nucleus is situated, from where the hypoglossal nerve fibers will be arising from the ventral surface of medulla. What we are seeing now is the dorsal surface of pons and medulla. So this is the area, hypoglossal triangle is the area where 12th nerve nucleus is situated. Just very close to it, just below and lateral to it, you find an area known as vagal triangle. Vagal triangle. If you now recap whatever you studied in medulla, everything is holding good here, because from the medulla, we know that 9, 10, 11, 12 nerves are emerging, cranial nerves are emerging. So vagal triangle is a site where 9, 10, 11 cranial nerve nuclei are situated within the vagal triangle. Below the vagal triangle, there is a whitish ridge there, this dotted line known as funiculus separatus. All these are features, one by one features. You just need to know one line about each, as I have mentioned here in the slide. For example, that's more than sufficient. If you get fourth ventricle as a long question, it's a cakewalk for you. If you get it as essay in your theory paper. So just below the vagal triangle, you have a small whitish ridge there known as funiculus separatus. And below the funiculus separatus, there is still another area marked there. That is known as area postrema. It's area which is what has very highly vascular neuroglial tissue. area rich in vascular neuroglial tissue known as chemoreceptor trigger zone, which is also said to be a vomiting regulating center or a vomiting controlling center. A vomiting regulating or vomiting controlling center is area postrema, which has rich vascular neuroglial tissue. So what all we studied? We studied many things here: hypoglossal triangle, vagal triangle, funiculus separates, area postrema. Now this lower end of the fourth ventricle, if you look at this picture, this resembles the nib of a pen, fountain pen. Fountain pens have a nib. I really wonder if you kids have seen a fountain pen, because nowadays all of us use only gel pen or ballpoint. So nowadays we used to pour ink and write only in fountain pen, which has a nib. If the nib is broken, if you drop the pen down, you can even replace the nib by getting it from the stationery store. So that nib, this lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, is supposed to resemble the nib of a fountain pen. Nib, N-I-B, the nib of a fountain pen, and hence this lower end is referred to as calamus scriptorius. What do you mean by calamus scriptorius? Calamus is the object that is used for writing. Scriptorius is writing. So object that is used, that's obviously it is your pen, nib of a fountain pen. So this appearance is referred to as calamus scriptorius. And this color, this dark maroon color ridge is known as tinea. It's another whitish ridge which extends from one inferior cerebellar peduncle lower down and then to the other inferior cerebellar peduncle. So whitish ridge, and that is known as tinea. The lowermost point of the floor of the fourth ventricle is referred to as obex. The lowermost point is known as obex. So to reiterate once again, the medullary part of the floor of fourth ventricle or rhomboid fossa, you have the same median sulcus here. You have the sulcus limitant showing the presence of inferior fovea. On either sides of the median sulcus, you have hypoglossal triangle, which accommodates the hypoglossal motor nucleus. And you have just below that and laterally, you have the vagal triangle. The vagal triangle lodges the nuclei of 9, 10, 11 cranial nerves. Below that, you have a whitish ridge here in dotted line, and that is your funiculus separatus. And below the funiculus separatus, you have an area known as area postrema, which is consisting of vascular neuroglial tissue, which is supposed to be a vomiting regulating center or vomiting controlling center. This entire lower part of the floor of fourth ventricle resembles the tip of the nib of a fountain pen, hence a terminology, calamus scriptorius, is given to it. And from either sides, you find this whitish ridge extending from one side, inferior cerebellar peduncle, to the apex here, and then again to this side, that is known as tinea. It's also a whitish ridge-like structure. The lowermost point is depressed, and that is known as obex. So these are the features of rhomboid fossa. So this is what you see exactly here. So in this picture, you can make out this is the superior angle, and this is your median sulcus. You can make out the facial colliculus here. That's a facial colliculus, sulcus limitans. Superior fovea can be made out here. So, and this is your superior cerebellar peduncle. This is part of the cerebellum because dentate nucleus can be made out here. A part of the cerebellum has come along with the section. So this is your dentate nucleus. Looking at the picture, you can make out. And you can see nicely the cavity of fourth ventricle is going down and continuing as a central canal of medulla oblongata. So this is the inferior angle. You can see the opening there. The cavity of fourth ventricle narrows down to continue further as a central canal of medulla oblongata. So this is the site where superior angle is going to continue above with the cerebral aqueduct. This is for central canal continuation. Median sulcus you can make out. That's a hypoglossal triangle. That's a vagal triangle. And you can make out this whitish ridge here. This is a funiculus separatus. This is area postrema. This is your, tinea. Your tinea is there. And that's finally your obex. So I think all the features you can make out very well. These fibers, these transverse fibers are striae medullaris, median sulcus, facial colliculus, sulcus limitans, superior fovea, and locus coeruleus. And this area is your vestibular area. This area is vestibular area. To repeat once again on this specimen, superior angle and inferior angle. Superior angle is going to continue above as a cerebral aqueduct. Inferior angle, the cavity will continue as central canal, that is superior cerebellar peduncle, a part of the cerebellum, dentate nucleus. Median sulcus, this is medial eminence within which you can find out the facial colliculus, you can make out very well. Sulcus limitans, and that's a depressed area, your superior fovea, and this is a locus coeruleus vestibular area. The same median sulcus here, hypoglossal triangle, and this is your vagal triangle. The vagal triangle, then you have the funiculus separatus here. This is area postrema. This is your tinea extending from one side to other side. That's the tinea, and this is finally the orbix. So this appearance now looks like the tip of a nib, hence the term calamus scriptorius. Now, what are the structures underneath the floor of fourth ventricle? So what we've already done, we're just going to do a quick recap. Beneath the superior half of floor, or beneath the upper part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, you have the sixth nerve surrounded by the internal genu or facial nerve. That's the facial colliculus formation. We know that already. The pontine part and vestibular nuclei is also present in the pontine part. I've shown you this facial colliculus and vestibular nuclei being situated. So again, the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, vestibular nuclei actually continues here also. You have partly a small part of vestibular nuclei here also. So vestibular nuclei, dorsal nucleus of vagus is there. Nucleus intercalatus also will be there. 12th nerve nucleus is there. True vomiting center, vital centers. So all these are seen in the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. Recesses. What I told you as recesses are nothing but extensions, cavity extensions in all possible directions. So these are extensions from the cavity. If this is the main cavity, you have so many extensions. You have 5 extensions totally, 2 lateral recesses, a median dorsal recess, and 2 lateral dorsal recesses. Okay, so 2 lateral recesses, a median dorsal recess. This is different from the foramen of Magendie and foramen of Luschka. Don't get confused. Okay, so here, of course, you'll be having foramen of Luschka here. The 2 lateral recesses will open out through foramen of Luschka into subarachnoid space. So these 2 are the 2 lateral recesses. This is a median dorsal, midline, median, but dorsal, posterior recess. These are 2 lateral dorsal extensions of the cavity of fourth ventricle. You have 5 extensions totally. So now this fourth ventricle, it is supposed to contain CSF, and CSF has to be constantly replaced. It will be absorbed. It has to be synthesized, circulate, reabsorbed, synthesized, circulate, reabsorb. It goes on. It's a vicious cycle. It keeps going on. So how is it possible? The cavity of all these brain ventricles are lined by a double layered of piabata known as tela choroidea. So tela choroidea you can make out here. This is the double layered fold of piabata, which even forms a covering for the cerebellum here. So it's a double layered fold, like how you find double layered folds of pleura. You find double layered folds forming the pulmonary ligament for the lung. So likewise here also you find double layered, so that here and there it forms spaces to accommodate the fluid. So you find a double layered piamata known as tela choroidea, and choroid plexus being derived from posterior inferior cerebellar artery, branches of vertebral artery. So this choroid plexus is nothing but vascular capillary fringe seen in the form of the alphabet T. In the form of alphabet T, the vertical limb of the T is a double layered fringe. You can make out double layered fringe opening out through the foramen of Magendie. So this is a capillary vascular fringe arising from FICA, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, branch of vertebral arteries, and it comes out through Luschka. It's coming out here, the double layered fringe in the vertical limb. Horizontal limb is a single vascular fringe. So these 2 together will help in the synthesis of cerebrospinal fluid within the cavity of fourth ventricle. So as I told you, I think I'm almost on time, finishing very fast. So of course, a very small session today. Medulloblastoma is a tumor. It's not very uncommon. You find it in children, a very rapidly invasive or highly invasive malignant tumor. It's a cancer, malignant tumor, which involves undifferentiated neuroectodermal cells from which the cerebellum is developing. Cerebellar vermis. The cerebellum or cerebellar vermis is the site from where this tumor arises. Medulloblastoma arises from cerebellar vermis due to poorly differentiated neuroectodermal cells from which the cerebellar vermis is developing. It's not usually seen during birth or soon after birth. Only when the child is around 5 or 6 years old, slowly the cerebellar actions will start getting deteriorated. Only at that time you'll find out, when you go for a CT or MRI, you'll know that the child is suffering from medulloblastoma. It's a developmental tumor. It would have been there during fetal life as well as soon after birth also, but its presence, clinically it presents or expresses itself with symptoms only after the child grows for about 6 to 8 years or 10 years. It's very sad to see the child losing all the cerebellar functions all the cerebellar function will be slowly deteriorating one by one. And that is not an uncommon tumor. It is not a very rare condition. You do find commonly in children, that is medulloblastoma. Internal hydrocephalus, any of these tumors can block the communications of fourth ventricle. You have a communication above with cerebral aqueduct, you have a communication below. So this is your cerebral aqueduct through which the fourth ventricle communicates with the third ventricle. So if you see, this is your lateral ventricle, third ventricle, fourth ventricle, that's cerebral aqueduct. So fourth ventricle communicates with third ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct, and below it communicates with the central canal of medulla oblongata. So if there is a tumor, any tumor, it will be blocking one of these communications. What will happen? The cerebrospinal fluid gets accumulated within the fourth ventricle itself, and it cannot circulate. The circulation of cerebrospinal fluid within the brain ventricles or ventricles of brain is impeded with or becomes slow, and the ventricles start expanding in size. The ventricles will start expanding in size like this, what you can see here. The lateral ventricle has enlarged lateral ventricle, enlarged third ventricle, and that is your fourth ventricle, and this is the obstructed area. Because lower down, it's not able to flow into the central canal of medulla. So what happens is the fourth ventricle has got filled with CSF. It is expanded or enlarged. The third ventricle is also enlarged. The lateral ventricle is also enlarged. So all these have gone in for enlargements, and that condition is known as hydrocephalus. So this is known as internal hydrocephalus or hydrocephalus. What is hydro? Hydro refers to water. Cephalus refers to head. So in the head or within the cranial cavity, what could be that water? Cerebrospinal fluid. So accumulations or larger accumulations of cerebrospinal fluid within the ventricles of brain is referred to as internal hydrocephalus. And this can be diagnosed by using a diagnostic procedure known as ventriculography. Ventriculography is by injecting through the central canal of spinal cord or through the medulla. You can inject a dye to completely visualize the ventricular cavity of the brain, the ventricles, all the ventricles of brain. You can visualize and see to what extent they have expanded. Nowadays, these, ventriculography procedure not really warranted nowadays, because you can find out everything in MRI and CT. MRI gives a very good, images about the brain pathology. So MRI is very good for nervous tissue. So if you do an MRI, you can make out the enlargement of the ventricular cavities of brain. But this was a procedure done earlier using a dye, iodine-based dye or something like radio opaque dye, which can go into the ventricle and show the expansions or enlargements of the ventricular cavity. So medulloblastoma is not a very rare tumor which can occur in children due to poorly differentiated neuroectodermal cells from which cerebellum is arising. That can compress upon the communications of fourth ventricle, so that can lead to enlargements of the other ventricles. There will be larger accumulation of CSF everywhere, resulting in conditions known as internal hydrocephalus. So this is about today's session. So with this, it's done today. I think all of you can nicely refresh and get back to watching IPL. So as I mentioned to Shruti, I'm also a diehard fan of cricket, IPL and CSK. So all of us can gear up, and we have lost almost, I think, 3 matches. Did we lose 3 or 2? 3. Can anyone unmute?
3, ma'am.
3. So it's very sad. Very sad. My heart is weeping now. At least today we'll pray to God that we will win. Hopefully. So all of us will sit down with some snacks with you by your side and watch happily, cheer up through the TV. We'll cheer up our team, and with prayers that hopefully we win today. Which team we are playing against today? That I'm not sure about. CSK versus Punjab. Oh, they're also strong. Equally strong. I think all the other teams they seem to be stronger than CSK. CSK is consisting of all Tatas, all retired Tatas. I think that's right. That's what my sons they say at home. All retired Tatas are there in CSK. All other teams are having younger chaps. Okay, we'll just pray for our loving team to win in today's match. Okay. So any doubts, you can catch me up in cerebellum session on Wednesday. I think it will be from 7 to 8 p.m. That's on October 7th, Wednesday. Okay. So shall we all break now? Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.